Hi everyone, hope you've had a great weekend so far. In today's edition of News Generation, we will tell you about a teenager who has been given a second chance to walk. And the West African Examination Council WAEC will not deny Muslim girls in hijab from registering to sit the council's exams. And just how far will you go to survive? We meet a 15-year-old girl who is risking her life to make a living. My name is Bernice Abubeidu. You're watching News Generation. We are interactive on social media. On Facebook is newsgenerationgh.com and on Twitter is newsgengh. Now, is there anything more exciting as a comeback? Just like seeing someone with great dreams getting a second chance in life? That is the story of 14-year-old Gulimpi Mai, born without well-developed legs. She has been given a second chance to walk again.
Gulimpi Mai has lived without well-developed legs and fingers since birth. Due to her condition, she could not walk properly, as most young children do. Her visit to the Orthopedic Training Center at Nsawam in July 2006 proved a turning point in Gulimpi's life. She was provided with artificial legs and elbow clutches to aid her to walk. Unlike most children who rely on their parents to do some basic things, Gulimpi is very independent. She has not allowed her disability to be a barrier to her dreams.
I was born like this, and I came to Orthopedic Training Center, and a sponsor who brought me to Orthopedic Training Center. Then she sent me to school. Now I'm improving. At first I don't know how to write and do work, but now I can do everything by myself.
Her story is one of taking advantage of what life presents. Gulimpi has managed to survive against all odds that befell her in her hometown of Yendi. She has been enrolled as a student of Perseverance International School at Nsawam for the past 8 years now, a school that admits children with disabilities. Her classmates are always on hand to assist her. Gulimpi is one of few children with physical disability who has been given a fair chance to take her rightful place as an equal participant in society.
I take myself like I'm part of those who do everything. I don't separate myself like I'm not part of them. I want to be a textile and designer. Yes. Because I know designs.
Gulimpi is a very good girl. She's kind. And whatever you ask her, she gives you. She's good in class and everything. Some people always say she's no good. She doesn't like playing with them. But as for me, she plays with me, and I think she's good.
That girl, she's a good friend. He can help you wherever you go. When I don't have money, and I will go and tell her, she helped me. So when I come to school, I don't feel hungry.
If this opportunity is supported, she will be able to contribute her quota to society. Government's effort at providing education for children living with disabilities dates back to the 1990s. Currently, Ghana has specialized state schools and centers for persons with various forms of disabilities at both primary and tertiary levels. In spite of these efforts, 20% of children living with disabilities aged 6 to 14 are still out of school. Children with disability are left out of mainstream education due to wrong perceptions, stigma, isolation, gender, health and nutrition status, language, among others. Removing barriers to learning and participation for all children, including those with disabilities, is very important.
Now I can walk. When I came to the orthopedic training, they teaches me all house chores and other things. So now I can work, I can wash, I can do everything.
She's not that bad. She's average, she learns, and she can even do better, provided the opportunity is given her. Because she's somebody, apart from learning that, I would say, has nothing to do. She learns a lot. She learns a lot. But she's not excellent, and I believe she can be excellent.
We actually don't see them as physically handicapped. We see them as physically challenged. And in this world, if you have challenges and you get somebody to push you along, you're able to make it. So we see them as one of us. You don't find anything difficult in admitting them. And in most cases, they cope. They mingle with the children just as the ordinary people do. So you don't have any problem at all.
An inclusive society involves a change in attitudes, recognizing that children with disabilities hold the same rights as everyone and that they can also contribute meaningfully to society.
The person should not look down upon him or herself, like he or she is not part of those who have full bodies.
Muslim students with hijab will not be prevented from writing WAEC exam. That's according to the West African Examination Council. This follows earlier reports the council was not going to allow Muslim students in hijab to sit for WAEC exams.
According to the West African Examinations Council, no candidate will be prevented from wearing the hijab, but that is if none of the candidates' facial features will be hidden when taking a passport photograph for the exams. The council's accepted photo format indicates both ears and all other facial features of the candidate must appear in the photograph. The photographs must equally be taken without spectacles or sunglasses with a plain background.
Whether you are a Catholic nun or you are a Muslim candidate, we have not stated in the specifications that you should remove your veil. All that we are saying is, even if you put on your veil, let's see these features so that all the photographs of candidates will be uniform. Let's have your ears, your nose, your eyes, a bit of your forehead showing. And I think that they have agreed to that. Oh, if that is what WAEC is asking for, then there's no issue. But I think initially the issue was remove everything totally.
Principal PRO of WAEC, Agnes Kujo, says the council has engaged some Islamic scholars to resolve disagreements between the sides. This comes after a number of protests from the Muslim community over a directive by some WAEC officials that potential candidates take off their hijabs before taking their photos. Meanwhile, for the first time, more than 1,100 private candidates will sit for the basic education certificate examination from February 16 to 20. The Examinations Council is cautioning all candidates to abide by examination rules to avoid severe punishment.
According to the Domestic Violence Victims and Support Unit, DOVSU, about 20 out of 100 women aged 20 to 29 are married off before age 18. These figures from DOVSU suggest that a chunk of these child marriages are not reported to relevant authorities, thereby making the issue of child marriage an open secret. The Gender Ministry has therefore set up a committee to draw up a strategy to end child and forced marriages. Our reporter Adelaide had a discussion with pupils of Prince of Peace School on the committee's work.
Child marriages continue to be one of the major problems facing the Ghanaian society. Statistics reveals that about 22% of women between the ages of 20 and 29 are married off before the age of 18. It is on this light that the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection has put up an advisory committee to be able to eliminate early marriages in Ghana. So I have some pupils from Prince of Peace International School, and we are going to elaborate on this particular problem, that's child marriage. First, we want to tell me, how do you understand child marriage?
Okay. Child marriage is a period which when little children are given to marriage to old women, old men.
Child marriage is when a girl who has not attained the rightful age to be given up for marriage is given up to marry, especially old people.
Actually, I would explain child marriage as a young girl or a teen who is below the age of 18. Because here in Ghana, once a girl or a person have to have a soil right, it must be 18 years. And once the person is not 18 years and the person is forcibly married, it means child marriage.
What are some of the problems the lady or the girl can face?
I think she can drop out of school because, as known by everyone, education is the most important way to gain success in the future. So if the children are taken into, like they go to this period, it makes them drop out of school.
Some of the problems the girls face is that though they've not reached the age of marriage, they are forced to satisfy the man's sexual needs, and then she is too young to undergo such treatment, and sometimes those men maltreat the girls.
It is on this light that the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection has set up a committee to advise government on how to eliminate this practice. What do you think about this committee?
I think this committee should do their best to disperse into the parts of the country, all the 10 regions, and emphasize a public education on the negative effects of child marriage. So I think if the public education is being emphasized very well, I think it will educate mostly the young girls so that they do not engage themselves in these ones, or they will not be forced by their parents when they are told to do so.
I think it's a good committee and I think it would help. But one thing about Ghana is that they are very good at enforcing laws, but they are not good at administering the law. So I pray and hope that this law will be administered well. And I know that this committee would help girls to defend themselves and curtail this problem in the country.
I must also thank the Ministry of Gender for also setting this committee. Well, it will help, but it will not only be situated here in Accra. I think that for this committee to actually work, I think that it must be situated in at least the 10 regions, each capital, and mostly the northern sectors of Ghana, because this is where actually that girl-child marriage is actually being situated, and most of them are from.
Do you think as a nation we have to sit down for this practice to happen before we set up a committee, or what can we do as a nation to step up?
I think that as a nation, what you can do is that all those men who are actually forcing young girls who are below the age of 18 to marry them, they must be caught and also sanctioned out by the laws, because some might even be the grandfathers of these young children.
Well, I think the men who take these small girls for marriage should be also educated, because as a man, if you're a husband, you should be older than at least your wife about 10 years. So you shouldn't go and take little girls for marriage, and I think it might spoil their reproductive system. I think it's not good.
Well said and done. As Jeff said, the men that are marrying the young ones should be sanctioned and also be put into prison. If you are home and you want to join this discussion, you know where to go. Facebook, News Generation GH, and then on Twitter at NewsGenGH.
How far will you go to risk your life to survive? News Generation met 15-year-old Susie, who is orphaned. Susie risks her life doing business in traffic every day. She sells sachet water to support herself in school.
This is 15-year-old Susie, who has been in this business for 2 years. Susie was seen hustling her way through to sell iced water to passengers in a churchill at the Abeka Junction traffic light. She tells me intrigued that the trade becomes more challenging, especially when the sun is scorching at noon. And it becomes even more dangerous running in between the cars. Yet Susie thrives amid the dangers, because for her, it is enough to feed herself.
Eya me confirm it was 8 o'clock. Saturday have a taband your moon touchy. That's an idea of Mutade kakra. Ebo mfaso susu kama. Edemitminya eya edemitmenta 10 bars. 10 bars ubenya be 300. Uko ewa bontiri ubenya be 20 Ghana. Misro subat be ne de kakra ebe dinti. Enu na mi hwe me hu kakra nti misro su. Me ni hwin be yeso.
Susie has plans of moving from the street. Susie knows that will come at a cost, but it is worth it. Susie, who is 15, lives with her auntie close to the Abeka market. Her parents died 2 years ago, leaving her with the grandparents. Her extended family no longer cares for her.
Pure time, enu na me ton kakra de hwe me school. Me papa ni mama ni auntie, ni me auntie na eti. So me post school ba ma beton. Your bobe 8 and 9 going e
Susie says it is not easy combining studies with selling.
Metos nsuan opan say me ko. Yes, I how bebre ne man. We do sometimes me do school some mesuade and some milk content person mo buan.
Sachet water has become very common in the country, and it is most convenient and affordable for people to buy and consume. For this reason, it has become a source of income for young people like Susie, who have no foster parents.
Now that is a great risk indeed. We wish Susie all the best. For the 10 years that he ruled Saudi Arabia, King Abdullah, as he was referred to, positioned the country as a key player in an unstable Middle East. For many Western leaders, the late king played an important role in promoting dialogue among the world's faiths. His critics, though, say his reign saw an increase in suppression of opposing views in the kingdom. The world is talking about the death of King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia.
For 10 years, King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Saud strengthened Saudi Arabia's power and influence in the Middle East. During his reign, he maintained close relations with the United States and Britain. He bought billions of dollars worth of defense equipment from both states. He is credited as being the first Saudi king to give Saudi women the right to vote and to compete in the Olympics. In August 2013, his cabinet approved a law making domestic violence a criminal offense for the first time in the kingdom's history. He was the first Saudi monarch to also organize a dialogue among the world's faith in June 2008. He is seen as the Saudi leader with an attitude of change, although a slow and steady one, compared to those who came before him. He allowed soft criticisms of his government in the press and hinted that more women should be allowed to work. King Abdullah, as he was called, was the 13th of the 45 sons of the founder of modern Saudi Arabia, King Ibn Saud. He succeeded another half-brother, Fahd, in 2005. However, he had already been Saudi Arabia's unofficial leader for 10 years because his predecessor was taken ill with a stroke. Before he became king, he was the crown prince of the kingdom from 1982 when his half-brother, King Fahd, became king. Aside that, he was named second deputy prime minister in March 1975, while he also maintained his position as head of the National Guard, a position he held from 1963. King Abdullah was a key ally in the West's fight against terrorism in the Middle East. He was also involved in many charity works. While still crown prince, he paid for the separation surgery of a pair of Polish conjoined twins, which took place at the King Abdulaziz Medical City in Riyadh in January 2005. He was given honorary citizenship by the Polish town where the twins were born. He established 2 libraries, the King Abdulaziz Library in Riyadh and another in Casablanca, Morocco. He also donated $300,000 to furnish a New Orleans high school rebuilding after Hurricane Katrina. Despite all these works, that he undertook, his critics accused him of persecuting members of the Ahmadi faith in Saudi Arabia. Moments after news of his death was announced, Crown Prince Salman was chosen to succeed the late king.
Let's now take a look at other stories which made headlines.
The USAID, in partnership with UNICEF, has donated a cash amount of $14.5 million to the Ghana Education Service. The donation, according to officials, should help improve access and equal education and the quality in the next 4 years. Aspects of funding will, however, go to support education of the girl child and children with disabilities in basic schools. The Ochehene Osajifo Amoitia of Oripenyi has attributed the increasing levels of corruption in the country to what he describes as a culture of silence among the general populace. Speaking as the chairman of this year's William Oforiatta lectures in Accra, the Ochehene urged Ghanaians to speak out when they see wrongdoing in society. Ace journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. has added his voice to calls for NDC chair Kofi Potofi to resign as national coordinator of the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO. The managing editor of the Inside newspaper said it was morally wrong for the chairman of the ruling NDC to also hold such a public office. Calls for the resignation of Kofi Potofi were started by the MPP MP for Tema East, Titus Glover, and has been supported by a group calling itself Concerned Branch Executives of the NDC. Nigeria's National Security Advisor says the country does not need the UN to defeat Islamist group Boko Haram. Sambo Dasuki said Nigeria and its neighbors Niger, Chad, and Cameroon were in a good shape to address the issue. He acknowledged the militants were a real security threat and said that close to 50% of Nigeria's army was now deployed to the northeast. An Islamist militant shot dead by French special forces 2 weeks ago after he attacked a Jewish supermarket has been buried near Paris. Police sources said Ahmed Koulibaly had been buried in the Muslim section of the Thiasis cemetery outside the city. 17 people died in 3 days of violence in Paris that began with an assault on the offices of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo on 7 January. 2 other attackers, brothers Sharif and Said Kouachi, have already been buried. Uganda's Football Federation has started to plan a way forward for national football teams' Nation Cup qualifying prospects ahead of the 2019 Nationals Cup finals. This comes after CAF revealed on Thursday that hosts of the 2017 African Cup of Nations will be announced on April 8 in Cairo, Egypt. According to CAF, 4 candidates are competing to host the tournament, which include Algeria, Egypt, Gabon, and Ghana. The new host will replace Libya, the original host. Mauricio Pochettino has defended his decision to make Emmanuel Adebayo his captain, despite the striker being buoyed by some fans when he was substituted before Tottenham Hotspur established a 1-0 Capital Cup semi-final lead over Sheffield United. The Spurs manager is keeping faith with the striker despite his most memorable contribution in their last game being a palm in the face of the Blades' 17-year-old midfielder Luis Reed, for which he was shown a yellow card. He was replaced by Roberto Soldado after 64 minutes before Andros Townsend penalty gave them a first leg victory.
That's it for this edition of News Generation. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can get interactive on social media at newsgenerationgh.com on Facebook and at newsgengh on Twitter. Stay safe. My name is Benis Abubedu. Bye.